Introduced to horses and racing as a youth, the thrills presented have never left. He's become one of the most important people ever in the growth and preservation of this state's thoroughbred industry. Jack Hodge is the special inductee into the Washington Racing Hall of Fame. Growing up in a Cleveland suburb, Hodge had his early recollections of weekends at his grandfather's butcher shop, following his dad's wagers on big races in New York. He checked the newspaper the next day for the results. Every year, Hodge attended tracks with family and friends such as Thistledown, Randall Park, and Cranwood in his Ohio region. In the late 60s, he was drafted into the Army, serving boot camp at Fort Polk, and in January 1970, went to Vietnam as an infantryman. Hodge eventually realized some 10 years later how war and combat can change a person. In 1971, Hodge met and wed Teresa Mercy, and they now have been married for 41 years. Hodge worked for United Airlines in dispatch and crew scheduling for much of the 70s, in Cleveland, San Francisco, and also after relocating to Seattle. He had a successful stint in commercial real estate as well. Always having made a few annual visits to the races at Long Acres, Hodge felt the need for more and different in his life and went back to thoroughbred racing. In 1980, he and partners claimed a horse, mostly Malarkey, and got a victory in his first start for the new ownership. Hodge was back into racing and enjoying it. He went to all the yearling sales, purchasing many to race. To get further involved in the sport, he convinced Teresa, and it wasn't easy, to move from their comfortable home in Bellevue to the then remote Enumclaw. In 1981, they purchased 60 acres from Morris McGrath and soon after added another 10. Home was now Oakcrest Farm. Teresa eventually fell in love with the farm, and daughter Stephanie was born in 1983. "Let's start filling this place with horses," Hodge told Teresa. Their first mare was Mama Taj, and her first foal was a son of Lieutenant Stevens.
Now they're coming down the lane, approaching the 8th pole. There's Zulu Wiz on the lead. Colonel Stevens now is second, driving up along the rail. Ono Brandt is third, and Fleet Joey is fourth. Now a new leader, his name, Colonel Stevens, drawn away by 3. Then you have Fleet Joey now in second. Colonel Stevens, Fleet Joey on the outside. He's Colonel Stevens.
First horse bred, a Washington champion, Colonel Stevens was the state's top 2-year-old of 1983 and finished third in the Long Acres Derby the next year. The broodmare band started and grew, up to 35 at the peak. He was breeding mares in Florida, California, Kentucky, as well as Washington. He went from managing their commercial assets to managing their thoroughbreds, as many as 125 horses at one time. Oakcrest has been nominated to the Washington Hall of Fame in the breeding category, and it's easy to see why. Additional Washington champions bred by Oakcrest include Finally Free, Guinevere, Crystal Run, Peterhoff's Patia. In 1990, Hodge was one of the 30 prominent industry members of Emerald Racing Association, formed to begin the task of building a new racetrack and saving a very significant statewide industry. In the summer of '92, Hodge realized Ron Crockett was necessary as the lead man if such a task was to be completed. Progress was underway with Crockett as president of Northwest Racing Associates and Hodge as vice president. The groundbreaking ceremony at the Auburn site was a joyous occasion in May of 1995. Hodge served as on-site construction foreman, dealing with hundreds of workers from scores of companies. Being a horseman, he was instrumental in the planning of Emerald Downs from the north end of the stable area to the south end of the grandstand. Much was to be done to get to opening day, June 20, 1996, and Hodge was ever present on top of every situation. A new track was built. Hodge was rewarded with a victory on opening day when homebred Heron's Flight won the 9th race. Oakcrest realized a tremendous high in 2006 when color bearer Sutra won a Grade 1 race, the Frisette, at Belmont.
Down toward the inside, Sutra continues a prolonged rally. Awesome Ashley is sputtering. So too is Elude in the last furlong. And Chanting Star, Sutra comes up the fence as Lily Carson gives way. And it is Sutra to win an upset victress in the Frisette and a rail skimming ride.
What a thrill for the Hodges! A few weeks later, Sutra raced in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies at Churchill Downs. He's found time for some leisure activities along the way. In fact, he's led quite an eventful life so far. A breeding farm, raising, buying, selling and racing horses, helping to save an industry. Jack Hodge, truly a deserved member of the Washington Racing Hall of Fame.